Late 1800s, modern-day Somalia was colonized by two powers. The Italians took control of Italian Somaliland in 1889, and 5 years earlier, the UK took control of what was called British Somaliland in 1884. These two areas can be seen in the maps provided. During World War II, there were shifts in power in the region. However, the most significant change occurred in the post-war era, when the newly founded United Nations began pushing for decolonization. In 1950, the UN put the area in a 10-year transitional period, after which it would become an independent state from its former colonizers. In 1960, the two parts of Somalia were united in the new state, which was a parliamentary system where Parliament appointed both the President and the Prime Minister, which can be reflected in their modern-day constitution as well. This government faced a military rebellion in 1961 that it put down with the help of Egypt's military. By 1964, the Somali Republic had formalized its country and had its first elections under its new government. The Somali Youth League took an overwhelming majority of the seats on a platform of pan-Somalism, which was focused on bringing all Somalis together, as there were some still outside of the country. Their plan, however, never really panned out. This government maintained power until 1969, when the newly elected president was assassinated and a military coup began. This coup led to a socialist single-party regime that lasted until 1978, when yet another coup occurred, followed by a civil war. This civil war would last through the 2000s. In 1991, Somaliland claimed its independence from the rest of Somalia, this area was seen, as you can see in this map, in a very similar place as the old borders that the UK had colonized. The United States and UN intervened in the Civil War in 1993 to try to quell the conflict, but after suffering casualties, it was deemed too costly and the intervention forces withdrew. While there had been many attempts at peace throughout the 1990s, progress really began in 2000 with the foundation of the Transitional National Government. While this did not solve the problem, it did lead to the TFG, the Transitional Federal Government. Despite the fact that it was not located in the country and had little control initially, and its power was especially contested by the ICU, the Islamic court system, which was the first power to bring stability back to the capital, it was still a great step forward, especially once Ethiopia intervened and aided the transitional federal government in becoming the main source of control. However, this did not mean it was in full control. In 2009, the transitional government adopted Sharia law as a source of its laws, and in 2012, the transitional government reformed under the new permanent political system, which is still being worked on to this day. Now, you might be asking what this new political system looks like. Well, the current regime in the country is a federal parliamentary republic with a bicameral system, and it sounds very similar to their original constitution. The Senate, consisting of 54 seats, is appointed by the state assemblies, which are made up of 18 states. The House of the People is composed of 275 seats, and this is their lower house, which are elected by electoral colleges, consisting of 51 delegates appointed by 131 clan elders. The Senate then elects the president with a two-thirds majority through a two-round voting process. Once elected, the president has the power to appoint the prime minister, who must be approved by the House of the People. I keep on mentioning the clans. What are the clans and how do they play a role? Well, the clans in this country play a significant role in the daily life of the Somali people and hold a significant amount of power in local and federal government. They also dictate many social norms and own and operate numerous businesses. The map here shows there are several major clans and where they reside. Keep in mind that these clans are also made of smaller sub-clans. During the socialist era, clan activities were banned and heavily penalized. However, this policy was largely ineffective and failed to eradicate the political influence of the clans, due to the fact that the socialist government just changed their name and official role, which meant that they essentially clung to their power and no systemic change occurred. One of the socialist regime's few successful policies was a mass literacy campaign in the 1970s, where they introduced a written language based on Latin characters and educated many people for it. This was a major success and one of the few. The majority of the Somali population is Sunni Muslim, and the government has declared it the official religion, with an estimated 99% of the population identifying as such. The country's demographics are also noteworthy, with over 60% of the population being under 25 years, and the median population being 18 and a half years old. This is reflected in the population pyramid, as you can see, which shows a rapidly growing population with a relatively small number of older people. This is a role that a thing that plays a role into this is the low life expectancy of 55 years. Approximately 47.3 of the 0.3% of the population lives in urban areas as well, which is relatively low compared to other countries, reflecting the country's agrarian society. Their agrarian society is a large part of their political and economic situations. Somalia is facing severe and economic political challenges with an HDI index of 0.361, a Gini coefficient of 36.8, a GDP per capita of 445.8, and a total GDP of 7.29 billion. The Gini coefficient suggests that there is a relatively high level of income equality in the country, which could be a result of its past socialist government, or the widespread poverty that has long plagued the country and prevents certain people from gaining mass wealth. It is a possibility that it is a combination of both of these factors. However, I believe that the low GDP per capita and overall GDP, as well as the low HDI, further illustrate that the poverty in Somalia is more systemic and is from root causes other than the civil war, other than the socialist government, and more likely caused by the civil war, preventing people from gaining mass wealth, and further suggest the income equality is a result of general long-lasting poverty rather than the socialist government. Agriculture is also a major contributor to the Somali economy, accounting for 40% of the country's total GDP and 50% of its export earnings. This reliance on agriculture is indicative of the poverty in the country and how it has not very much progressed and industrialized, which would further hold it back. All of this plays a role in the pressing issues that the country faces. Outside of its economics, it has a great political movement that is causing a lot of problems. The main one, is Somaliland's push for independence from the rest of Somalia. While Somaliland has complete autonomy, few states recognize it as an independent nation. As well as this, there are ongoing conflicts in many parts of the country. Despite this, however, the situation for the average person is generally more stable than it was 10 years ago. Famine and disease continue to be a major issue, however, which is shown by the fact that approximately 23% of children in the country are severely underweight due to malnutrition. In addition, the country struggles with low enrollment rates in elementary schools, with only 40% of children enrolled. Improving education is crucial and probably the best way for raising the country's HDI and GDP in the future. Somalia is a country with a troubled past and a hopeful future, with many challenges ahead.